I stood up from that restaurant table, walked past my son's shocked face, past his wife's open mouth, past all those strangers staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But you know what? For the first time in 68 years, I felt completely sane. They expected me to pay. They always expected me to pay. But that night, I just kept walking, straight out the back door, into the parking lot, into a taxi, and I never looked back. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far my story travels. My name is Evelyn Harper, and I spent most of my life being a fool. There. I said it. Not the kind of opening you expected, right? But it's true. I was the kind of fool who believed that if you loved hard enough, sacrificed deep enough, gave until there was nothing left to give, that somehow, eventually, the people you loved would love you back the same way. I was wrong, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the night everything changed, the night I became someone I didn't recognize, the night I finally understood that sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you'd die for. It was a Tuesday in October, Vanessa's birthday dinner. My daughter-in-law had picked some upscale Italian place downtown, the kind with cloth napkins folded into swans and prices that don't appear on the menu because if you have to ask, you probably shouldn't be there. I should have known something was coming. Vanessa never did anything small. Everything was a production, a performance, a carefully staged show where she was always the star. I arrived early. I always arrived early, 45 minutes before the reservation, standing outside in my good dress, the navy blue one I'd worn to 3 weddings and a funeral. It still fit, mostly, though the zipper fought me a little. I'd bought flowers from the grocery store, nothing fancy, just some daisies wrapped in plastic. Vanessa hated daisies. She'd told me that once, but I'd forgotten, or maybe I just hoped she'd changed her mind. She hadn't. When I walked into that restaurant, the hostess looked at me like I'd wandered in from the street. Maybe I looked as nervous as I felt. She checked her reservation list twice before finally, reluctantly, showing me to the table. It was a long table, set for 20 people. 20. I didn't know Vanessa had 20 friends. Hell, I didn't know anyone had 20 friends. You can sit there, the hostess said, gesturing to the very end of the table. The corner spot. The seat that would have been in a different room if the room had been any bigger. I sat down, smoothed my dress, put the daisies on the table in front of me. A waiter came by and asked if I wanted water. I said yes. He brought it and disappeared. I waited and waited. The restaurant filled up around me. Couples on dates, families celebrating something, business people pretending their steak dinner was going to close some deal. Everyone looked like they belonged there. I felt like a kid who'd snuck into the adults section. Ryan showed up 30 minutes later. My son. My only child. The boy I'd raised alone after his father died. The boy I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college. The boy who used to hold my hand at the grocery store and tell me I was the prettiest mom in the whole world. He didn't see me at first. He was laughing at something on his phone, walking past my end of the table without even glancing over. I had to call his name twice. Ryan, honey. He looked up. For just a second, I saw something cross his face. Surprise, maybe? Or was it annoyance? It vanished so fast I couldn't be sure. Oh, Mom, you're here. He said it like I'd shown up uninvited to his house. I didn't see you sitting down there. The hostess sat me here, I said. Is this okay? Should I move? No, it's fine. Stay there. He was already looking past me, scanning the restaurant entrance. Vanessa's running late, traffic. Oh, okay. I picked up my water glass just to have something to do with my hands. You look nice. Is that a new suit? This? No, I've had it for months. He tugged at his collar. Listen, Mom, when the bill comes tonight. And there it was. Less than 2 minutes of conversation, and we'd already arrived at the real reason I'd been invited. The bill. There was always a bill. Ryan, I don't know if I can... Mom. He said it in that tone. That specific tone that made me feel 6 inches tall. It's Vanessa's birthday. We're not going to embarrass her in front of everyone. You understand that, right? I understood. I always understood. That was the problem. More people started arriving. Vanessa's friends, mostly. Women with designer handbags and professional highlights. Men in expensive watches who shook Ryan's hand like they were closing business deals. They filled the table from the other end, the good end, clustering around the empty chair that I assumed was meant for the birthday girl herself. Nobody sat near me. A few of them glanced down the table in my direction, probably wondering who the old lady in the grocery store dress was. I tried to smile, tried to look like I belonged. My cheeks hurt from the effort. Vanessa made her entrance 45 minutes late, which I later learned was intentional. She liked to make people wait, like the moment when she walked in and everyone stopped talking to look at her. And they did. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. 32 years old with perfect skin and hair that looked like she'd just stepped out of a salon, which she probably had. She was wearing something red and expensive that I couldn't have afforded if I'd saved for a year. She didn't acknowledge me at all, not even a glance. Just swept past my end of the table like I was part of the furniture, kissing cheeks and hugging friends and laughing that bright, performative laugh that I'd learned to recognize as fake within the first month of knowing her. Ryan pulled out her chair. She sat. Everyone sat. And the dinner began. Have you ever been in a room full of people and felt completely invisible? That's what the next 2 hours felt like. Conversations swirled around me, but none of them included me. The people near my end of the table, two couples I'd never met, talked to each other and pretended I wasn't there. When the appetizers came, they were passed from the far end, and by the time the plates reached me, there was one sad bruschetta left that looked like someone had already taken a bite. I ate it anyway. I was hungry. The waiter kept refilling wine glasses at the other end. My water sat half empty. When I finally caught his attention and asked for a refill, he looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. But he brought it. Barely. I watched my son laugh at Vanessa's jokes. Watched him lean in close to her, his arm around her chair, completely absorbed in her world. I tried to remember the last time he'd looked at me like that. Tried to remember the last time he'd looked at me at all. Really looked, not just the quick scanning glance you'd give a stranger on the street. I couldn't. Vanessa opened presents between courses. Expensive presents. A bracelet that probably cost more than my monthly pension. A weekend spa package. Concert tickets to some singer I'd never heard of. Everyone oohed and awed. She acted surprised every time, even though she'd probably picked everything out herself. I'd brought a present too. It was in my purse. A scarf I'd knitted myself over the past 3 months. I'd chosen colors I thought she'd like. Cream and gold, elegant, simple. I'd spent hours on it, watching YouTube videos to learn the pattern, undoing mistakes, starting over. My fingers had cramped. My eyes had gotten tired. But I'd finished it. Wrapped it in tissue paper because I couldn't afford proper wrapping paper. Put it in a gift bag from the dollar store. I kept it in my purse. Something told me this wasn't the right moment. Or maybe there would never be a right moment. Maybe she'd just fake smile and set it aside with that look on her face. The look that said, "How quaint. How pathetically thoughtful." The main courses arrived. Everyone got exactly what they ordered. I got confused by the menu. It was in Italian, or maybe French, I couldn't tell, and ended up with some kind of fish that I didn't recognize. It was good, I think. I barely tasted it. I was too busy watching everyone else enjoy themselves while I sat in my corner like a punishment. Then came the cake. Of course there was cake. A massive 3-tier thing with real flowers and gold leaf that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The waiter brought it out with sparklers. Everyone sang happy birthday. Vanessa pretended to be embarrassed. She blew out the candles. Everyone cheered. And then she stood up. "I just want to say thank you," Vanessa announced, her voice carrying across the table even though she wasn't speaking that loudly. She had that quality, command, presence, whatever you want to call it. When she talked, people listened. "This has been the most incredible night. I'm so lucky to be surrounded by such amazing people who love me and support me." She went on like that for a while, thanking specific people by name. Her best friend Sarah, who'd organized the whole thing. Her coworker Marcus, who'd brought the champagne. Ryan, of course, her wonderful husband, who made every day feel like a celebration. She never said my name. I told myself it didn't matter. Told myself I was being silly, oversensitive, too needy for attention. But it hurt. God, it hurt. I'd raised the man she was married to. I'd welcomed her into our family, even though she'd made it clear from day one that she thought I wasn't good enough, wasn't sophisticated enough, wasn't enough, period, and I wasn't worth 30 seconds of acknowledgement on her birthday. Then the bill came. The waiter brought it on a little tray, set it in the center of the table. Everyone suddenly got very interested in their phones, their napkins, the fascinating pattern on the ceiling, that universal body language that said, "Not it." Ryan picked up the folder, opened it. I watched his face change. He looked at Vanessa. She looked back at him with this expression I'd seen before. Expectant, demanding, the look that said, "Handle it." And then he looked at me. My stomach dropped. "Mom," he said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "could you come up here for a second?" Every face turned toward me. I felt my cheeks burning. I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked the length of the table to where Ryan sat. It felt like walking a plank. All those eyes on me, judging me, wondering what the old lady was doing here anyway. Ryan handed me the bill folder without a word. I opened it. The total made my vision blur. $1,500. $1,500. For one dinner. That was more than my monthly pension. That was my electricity, my water, my phone bill, my groceries, and my medication combined. "I can't," I said quietly. "Ryan, I can't afford this." "Mom." His voice was tight, embarrassed. "We talked about this. You said dinner. You didn't say, I didn't know it would be." Evelyn. Vanessa's voice cut through mine like a knife. She never called me mom. Never even tried. "Are you really going to make a scene at my birthday dinner, in front of all my friends?" The table had gone silent. Everyone was watching now, waiting. I felt like a bug under a microscope. "I'm not trying to make a scene," I said. My voice sounded small, pathetic. "I just don't have this kind of money right now." Right now. Vanessa laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was sharp, mean. "You never have money. Funny how you always manage to spend it on yourself, but never when your own son needs something." That wasn't true. That wasn't even close to true. But I couldn't say that. Couldn't defend myself. Not here, not in front of all these people. "Just put it on your card," Ryan said. He wasn't looking at me. "You can pay it off gradually. It's not that big a deal." Not that big a deal. $1,500 wasn't that big a deal to him. Because he'd never had to choose between medication and electricity, never had to water down milk to make it last longer, never had to pretend he wasn't hungry so his kid could eat. My hands were shaking. I put the folder down on the table. "I need to use the restroom," I said. Nobody responded. They'd already dismissed me. Vanessa was laughing with Sarah about something. Ryan had his phone out. The moment had passed for them. Just another awkward scene with Mom. Just another time she'd embarrassed them. I walked toward the bathroom. My purse was still at the table. My coat. The scarf I'd knitted. Everything I'd brought with me. But I didn't go back for it. I kept walking, past the restrooms, past the kitchen doors. There was a back exit, an emergency exit. The kind with a sign that says an alarm will sound if you open it. I pushed the door open. No alarm sounded. The cold October air hit my face like a slap. The alley behind the restaurant smelled like garbage and rain. My heels clicked on the wet pavement. I could hear traffic from the street beyond. Car horns, people living their lives. And I just kept walking. I didn't have a plan. Didn't have my purse. Didn't have my phone. But I had my wallet in my dress pocket. I always kept my wallet separate, an old habit from my mother. And that was enough. I reached the street, flagged down a taxi, gave him my address. He looked at me funny, probably because I was shaking, probably because I looked like I'd just escaped from something. But he drove. In the back seat, I stared out the window and watched the city blur past. My reflection looked back at me from the glass. An old woman. Tired. Used up. Done. But also, and this was the strange part, free. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt free. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights. Just walked through my little house in the dark, past the furniture I'd bought at yard sales, past the photos on the wall of Ryan at every age, past the kitchen where I'd made thousands of meals for a kid who'd grown up to treat me like an ATM. I went to my bedroom, pulled out 3 suitcases from the top of my closet, and I started packing. I knew they'd come. Probably tonight, probably furious. Ryan would be humiliated. Vanessa would be vindictive. They'd storm in here expecting apologies, expecting me to grovel, expecting the same woman who always backed down. But I was done being that woman. I packed methodically. Clothes, shoes, the photo albums, but only the ones from before Ryan got married. Some books, my mother's jewelry box, the things that mattered, the things that were mine. 3 suitcases. That's all I needed. That's all I wanted. The house I'd lived in for 43 years suddenly felt too big, too full of memories that hurt more than they helped. This was the house where my husband died, where I'd raised Ryan alone, where I'd cried myself to sleep more nights than I could count, wondering if I was doing enough, being enough, loving enough. I'd given this house everything. It had taken everything from me. It was almost midnight when I heard the car pull up outside, heard the doors slam, heard Ryan's voice, angry, getting louder as he walked up the driveway. I sat in my living room in the dark and waited. The front door burst open. I'd forgotten to lock it, or maybe I'd left it unlocked on purpose. Maybe some part of me wanted this confrontation, needed it. Ryan stormed in first, Vanessa right behind him. He flipped on the light switch. They both stopped when they saw me sitting there on the couch, calm, 3-pack suitcases lined up beside me. "What the hell, Mom?" Ryan's face was red. "What the hell was that? You just walked out? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was?" "I imagine it was very embarrassing," I said quietly. "You imagine?" Vanessa's voice was shrill. "We had to cover your bill. Everyone saw. Everyone was talking about it, about us, about how we have to deal with a mother who can't even handle basic social obligations." "That bill was $1,500, I said. "So? It's a birthday dinner. Things cost money, Evelyn." "My name is Mom," I said. "Not Evelyn, Mom." She blinked. "What?" "I'm Ryan's mother. I've been his mother for 38 years. You've been in this family for 5 years, and you've never once called me Mom. Never once treated me like family. I'm just Evelyn, the obligation, the embarrassment, the ATM that sometimes runs empty." "That's not fair," Ryan said, but his voice was weaker now. "Isn't it?" I stood up. My legs felt steady. Strange. "When's the last time you called me just to talk, Ryan? Not to ask for money. Not to ask me to babysit. Oh, wait. You don't have kids yet, so that's not even an option. When's the last time you called because you wanted to hear my voice?" He didn't answer. "I'll tell you when," I continued. 2 Christmases ago. You called to tell me you wouldn't be coming for dinner because Vanessa's family had invited you skiing. You didn't ask if I had other plans, didn't invite me along, just informed me you'd be absent. And you know what I said? I said, "That's fine, honey. You have fun," because that's what I always say. That's what I've always done. Made everything easy for you, made everything okay. "We're not doing this right now," Vanessa said. "You're being dramatic." Dramatic. I tasted the word. You know what's dramatic? Spending $1,500 on a birthday dinner and expecting someone on a fixed pension to pay for it. You know what's dramatic? Ignoring someone for 2 hours and then getting angry when they leave. "You're making this into something it's not," Ryan said. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from when he was a little boy and knew he was in trouble. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? We should have been clearer about the cost, but you didn't have to just walk out like that. What did you expect me to do? Handle it like an adult." The words hung in the air between us. Handle it like an adult. As if I was the child. As if I was the one who needed to be managed. "Ryan," I said slowly, "do you know how much money I've given you in the past 5 years?" He shifted uncomfortably. "We've had some rough patches. We paid you back." "No, you didn't. You've never paid me back. Not once." I'd kept records. Every loan, every emergency, every crisis that required my bank account to solve. $47,000. That's how much. $47,000 for my pension, my savings, my retirement fund. And you know what I got in return? Embarrassment, shame, a seat at the end of the table where nobody talks to me. "That money was for emergencies," Ryan said. "What emergency? The trip to Cabo? The new car? The down payment on the apartment you couldn't afford?" My voice was rising now, and I didn't care. "What emergency, Ryan? Because from where I'm sitting, the only emergency is that you married someone who taught you that your mother's love comes with a price tag." Vanessa's face went white, then red. "Excuse me? You heard me." I looked at her directly now. No more avoiding her eyes, no more making myself small. "From the day Ryan met you, you've made it clear that I'm not good enough, not rich enough, not refined enough, not worthy of being part of your perfect life. And you know what? You're right. I'm not part of your life. I'm just the bank you withdraw from when you need something. You don't know what you're talking about, Vanessa said. Don't I? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me one time, just one, when you invited me somewhere because you actually wanted me there. Not because you needed money, not because it looked good to have family around, just because you wanted my company. Silence. That's what I thought. I picked up one of my suitcases. I'm done. I'm done being your backup plan. I'm done being the person you only remember when you need something. I'm done. Where are you going? Ryan looked genuinely confused now. You're not actually leaving. I already left. Tonight. In that restaurant. I've been gone for hours. You just didn't notice because you never noticed me anyway. Mom, come on. Don't be ridiculous. He tried to smile. That charming smile that used to work when he was 16 and wanted to borrow the car. Let's talk about this tomorrow when everyone's calmed down. There's nothing to talk about. I picked up the second suitcase. Actually, there's one thing. The house. What about the house? Ryan's eyes flickered with something. Interest. Calculation. The look he got when he saw something valuable. It's sold. The words dropped like stones. What? Ryan's voice cracked. What do you mean, it's sold? I sold it 3 weeks ago. Closed last Friday. The new owners take possession next month. You can't. You didn't. He looked at Vanessa, then back at me. This is my inheritance. This house is supposed to be yours, I finished. That's funny. I don't remember dying. I don't remember you earning it. I remember buying this house with my dead husband's life insurance money. I remember making every mortgage payment alone. I remember maintaining it, fixing it, living in it, but I don't remember promising it to you. But we were going to. Ryan couldn't seem to finish a sentence. You planned, I said. You counted on me dying and leaving you something valuable. Well, surprise, I'm not dead, and the house is gone. Sold it for market value, paid off my debts, most of which were loans to you, by the way, and donated a significant portion to a shelter for elderly women escaping financial abuse from their families. Vanessa made a sound like she'd been slapped. You're insane, she said. You're actually insane. That was family money. That was mine, I interrupted. It was mine. My house. My money. My decision. And now it's gone. Ryan sank onto the couch, his face in his hands. He looked devastated. Not because he'd lost his mother, because he'd lost what he thought his mother could give him. That was the moment I truly understood. He didn't love me. Maybe he had once, when he was small and needed me for things that mattered more than money. But somewhere along the way, I'd become a resource instead of a person, an investment, a future payout. And I'd let it happen. I'd enabled it, funded it, encouraged it by never saying no, never drawing lines, never demanding to be treated like I mattered. I'm leaving tonight, I said. I've arranged everything. I have a place to go, people who want me there. You don't need to worry about me anymore. Actually, you never needed to worry about me. You just needed to worry about what I could give you, and I can't give you anything anymore. So we're done. I picked up the third suitcase and walked toward the door. Mom. Ryan's voice stopped me. For a second, just a second, he sounded like my little boy again. Mom, wait, please. I turned back. He was standing now, his face pale, his eyes wet. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't mean for things to be like this. I didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't want to realize, I said gently. And that's okay, Ryan. I forgive you. But I don't forgive you enough to stay. Do you understand? I can forgive you and still protect myself. I can love you and still leave. Don't do this, he said. We can fix this. We can. No, I said. We can't. Because fixing this would require you to see me as a person instead of a bank account. And I don't think you know how to do that anymore. Maybe someday you'll figure it out. Maybe someday you'll understand what you lost tonight. But that's your journey, not mine. Mine is out that door. And I left. I called a taxi from the neighbor's phone, waited at the end of the driveway with my 3 suitcases. Ryan and Vanessa didn't follow me out. I could see them through the living room window, arguing about something, probably about me, probably about the house, probably about everything except what actually mattered. The taxi came. The driver helped me load my suitcases, asked if I was okay. I told him I was better than I'd been in years. And I meant it. As we drove away from that house, from that life, from everything I'd known for 4 decades, I felt something I hadn't felt since I was young. Something wild and terrifying and absolutely wonderful. I felt free. The bus station at 4 in the morning is a different world. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, homeless people sleeping on benches, a janitor pushing a mop across floors that never really get clean, and me sitting on a plastic chair with 3 suitcases, waiting for a bus that would take me somewhere, anywhere, that wasn't here. I'd asked the taxi driver to drop me at the Greyhound station. He'd looked concerned, asked if I was sure, if I had someone meeting me. I'd lied and said yes. It was easier than explaining that I was 68 years old and running away from my own life. The ticket counter clerk was a young woman with purple hair and tired eyes. She barely looked at me when I asked about destinations. "Where you headed?" she asked, chewing gum. I opened my mouth, closed it. I had no idea. "Where does the first bus go?" I asked. She looked at me then, really looked. "You okay, ma'am?" "I'm perfect," I said. "First bus. Wherever it goes." She studied her computer screen. "Portland, Maine. Leaves in 20 minutes. Gets there tomorrow afternoon." "I'll take it." She printed the ticket. I paid cash. And just like that, I had a destination. I'd been to Portland once, 30 years ago, a conference for work. I'd been a secretary at an insurance company back then. I remembered the ocean, the smell of salt and fish and something wild that you couldn't find inland. My cousin Marina lived somewhere up there, unless she'd moved. We'd lost touch over the years, the way families do when there's no drama to keep the phone lines burning. The bus was half empty. I chose a window seat near the back, put my suitcases in the overhead rack, and my purse in my lap. As the bus pulled out of the station, I watched the city lights blur past and felt my chest tighten. What had I done? I'd walked away from my son, sold my house without telling him, abandoned everything familiar. At 68 years old, I was starting over with 3 suitcases and a bus ticket to a city I barely knew. No plan, no home, no guarantees. I must have been insane. But then I thought about Vanessa's face at that restaurant, the way she'd looked through me like I was invisible, the way Ryan had handed me that bill like it was my obligation, my purpose, my only value. And suddenly the bus seat didn't feel so uncomfortable. Suddenly the uncertain future didn't seem as terrifying as the certain past I'd left behind. I didn't sleep, just watched America slide by in the dark. Gas stations, all-night diners, towns so small you'd miss them if you blinked. Somewhere around sunrise, we stopped at a rest area. I bought terrible coffee and a stale muffin from a vending machine. Ate it sitting on a curb while truck drivers stretched their legs and checked their phones. My phone? I'd left it on the restaurant table with my purse, which meant Ryan couldn't call me, couldn't text, couldn't send those messages that always started with "Mom, I need," and ended with a number. I felt lighter without it. The woman who sat next to me after the rest stop was probably in her 40s, wearing scrubs with cartoon cats on them. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Long trip?" she asked. "Very long," I said. "Going home or leaving home?" I thought about that. Both, maybe. She nodded like that made perfect sense. We didn't talk much after that, but it was a comfortable silence, the kind you can only have with strangers who don't need your story to accept your presence. Portland appeared late afternoon on day 2. I was stiff, exhausted, hungry, and more terrified than I'd been in my entire life. The bus station was smaller than the one I'd left, cleaner somehow. I collected my suitcases and stood on the sidewalk, breathing in ocean air and trying to remember what courage felt like. I found a payphone, one of the last dinosaurs of the communication age, and called information, asked for Marina Castellano. They found 3 listings. I tried the first number, an answering machine, not her voice. Second number, a man answered. Wrong Marina. Third number. It rang 6 times. I was about to hang up when someone picked up. "Hello?" The voice was older than I remembered, but it was definitely her. "Marina, it's Evelyn. Evelyn Harper." Silence. Then, "Evie? My God, is that really you?" "It's me." "Where are you? Are you okay? I haven't heard from you in..." What, 15 years? I'm in Portland, I said. I'm at the bus station. And I know this is crazy. I know I should have called first, but I didn't know where else to go, and I just needed. Stay there, Marina interrupted. Don't move. I'm coming to get you right now. 20 minutes, okay? Just wait for me. She hung up before I could respond. I sat on my suitcases and waited. Watched people come and go, families reuniting, travelers starting journeys. Everyone seemed to know where they were going, what they were doing. I envied that certainty. Marina pulled up in an old Subaru that had seen better decades. She jumped out, and for a moment we just stared at each other. She'd aged too. Silver hair cut short, laugh lines around her eyes, 20 pounds heavier than the cousin I remembered. But her smile was the same. Evie, she said, and pulled me into a hug that smelled like vanilla and coffee and safety. I started crying. Just stood there in the bus station parking lot, sobbing into my cousin's shoulder while she patted my back and made soothing noises. People probably stared. I didn't care. Come on, she said finally. Let's get you home. Her home was a small cottage 10 minutes from downtown. Yellow paint peeling slightly, garden full of flowers that had gone wild, a front porch with 2 rocking chairs. It looked like the kind of place where nothing bad could happen. It's not much, Marina said, unlocking the door. But it's mine. Bought it after my divorce 10 years ago. Best decision I ever made. Inside smelled like cinnamon and old books. Comfortable furniture that didn't match. Plants everywhere. A cat appeared from nowhere and wound around my legs. That's Hemingway, Marina said. He's friendly but judgmental. Fair warning. She made tea, real tea, loose leaf, in a pot with a cozy. We sat at her kitchen table, and for the first time in 2 days, I felt like I could breathe. So, Marina said gently, you want to tell me what happened? And I did. Everything poured out. The restaurant, the bill, Ryan, Vanessa, the years of being used and ignored and treated like an ATM with a heartbeat. The house I'd sold. The money I'd given away. The life I'd walked away from in the middle of the night. Marina listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Good, she said finally. I blinked. Good? Good that you left. Good that you stood up. Good that you finally stopped letting them treat you like garbage. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Evie, I've watched you disappear over the years. Every Christmas card, every phone call, when we still had those, you sounded smaller, quieter, like you were erasing yourself piece by piece. And I wanted to say something, but you seemed so determined to be the perfect mother, the perfect martyr. I wasn't a martyr, I protested weakly. Weren't you? She raised an eyebrow. You gave up everything for a son who took everything. You bankrupted yourself to fund his lifestyle. You accepted abuse from his wife because you were afraid of losing him. What do you call that? I didn't have an answer. You can stay here as long as you need, Marina said. I have a spare room. It's small, but it's yours. Stay a week, stay a year, stay forever. I don't care. I'm just glad you're here. That first night, I lay in Marina's spare room and stared at the ceiling. The sheets smelled like lavender. Through the window, I could hear the ocean in the distance, waves hitting rocks, constant and eternal. My phone was gone, but I imagined Ryan trying to call. Imagined his voicemails. Would he be angry? Worried? Did he even notice I was gone? Or was he too busy dealing with the fallout of the house sale? Part of me, a bigger part than I wanted to admit, hoped he was frantic. Hoped he was scared. Hoped he finally understood what he'd lost. But another part of me knew better. Ryan wasn't thinking about me. He was thinking about the money, the inheritance that had evaporated, the future he'd counted on that no longer existed. I'd given him everything, and he'd learned to expect everything. That was my fault as much as his. Sleep came eventually, heavy and dreamless. The next morning, Marina woke me with coffee and a proposition. My friend Carol owns a bookstore downtown, she said. Small place, mostly used books, tourist stuff in the summer. She's been looking for part-time help. Interested? I don't know anything about running a bookstore, I said. You know how to read, right? You know how to talk to people? That's 90% of the job. So that afternoon, I met Carol. She was 72, sharp as a knife, with white hair down to her waist and the vocabulary of a sailor. Her store was called The Cracked Spine, and it was exactly the kind of place you'd expect from someone named Carol. Cramped, dusty, full of books stacked in ways that defied physics. "You've worked retail?" Carol asked, looking me up and down. "Secretary work mostly, but I'm a fast learner." "Can you work a register?" "Yes." "Can you lift 20 pounds?" "If I have to." "Can you tell tourists that we don't have a bathroom without sounding like you want to murder them?" I smiled. "I raised a son. I can handle tourists." "You're hired. $15 an hour, 4 days a week, Wednesdays through Saturdays. We open at 10, close at 6. Don't steal, don't show up drunk, don't recommend books you haven't read. Deal?" "Deal." I started the next week. Turned out I loved it. Loved the smell of old paper, the quiet hours between customers, the random conversations about books people had read or wanted to read, or were buying as gifts for people they barely knew. Carol was tough, but fair, and she didn't ask questions about my past. Didn't care why a woman my age had shown up in Portland with 3 suitcases and no plan. Marina helped me find a small apartment 2 weeks later. Nothing fancy, a studio above a pizza place with a Murphy bed and a window that overlooked the harbor. But it was mine. I paid first and last month's rent with the money I'd kept from the house sale, bought furniture at thrift stores, hung cheap prints on the walls, made a space that felt like home. And slowly, carefully, I started to remember who I was before I became Ryan's mother. I was someone who liked mysteries and crossword puzzles, someone who talked to strangers in coffee shops, someone who laughed at stupid jokes and sang off-key in the shower, someone who deserved better than I'd been getting. Marina introduced me to her friend group, a collection of divorced, widowed, and never-married women in their 60s and 70s who called themselves the Coastal Crones. They met every Tuesday for dinner at someone's house, rotating hosts, bringing wine and stories, and absolutely no tolerance for self-pity. "So you left your family?" a woman named Beth asked at my first dinner. She was a retired lawyer with zero filter. "I left people who were using me," I corrected. "Good. Family's overrated anyway. You know what's not overrated? Merlot. Pass it here." These women became my people. They'd all survived something: bad marriages, ungrateful children, financial disasters, health scares. They'd all rebuilt, and they welcomed me like I'd always belonged. For the first time in decades, I had friends who wanted nothing from me except my company. But Ryan didn't disappear just because I'd left. 3 weeks after I arrived in Portland, Marina answered her phone and her face went pale. "It's for you," she said quietly. "Your son." My stomach dropped. I took the phone. "Mom?" Ryan's voice cracked. "Mom, where are you? How did you get this number?" "I've been calling everyone. Everyone. Uncle Paul, Aunt Linda, every friend of yours I could find. Marina was the only one who answered. Mom, please, you have to come home." "I don't have a home anymore, remember? I sold it." "You know what I mean. Come back. We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Mom, please." He was crying now, actual tears. I could hear them in his voice. "I messed up. I know I messed up. But you can't just disappear. You're my mother. Then act like I'm your mother instead of your bank account." "That's not fair. I love you." "Do you?" The question hung between us. Because love isn't just words, Ryan. It's actions. It's respect. It's treating someone like they matter even when you don't need something from them. When's the last time you did that? Silence. "I didn't think so," I said. "I need time. I need space. I need you to figure out why you're really calling me. Because you miss me or because you miss what I could give you." "Mom, goodbye, Ryan." I hung up, handed the phone back to Marina, sat down on her couch, and shook. "You okay?" Marina asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I will be." The next few weeks were hard. I kept expecting Ryan to show up, kept imagining him finding my apartment, pounding on the door, demanding I come back and fix everything I'd broken. But he didn't come. Didn't call Marina's number again. Sent no letters, no messages through family, nothing. The silence hurt worse than I expected, because a part of me, that stupid, hopeful part that never quite dies, had wanted him to fight for me. Not for the money, not for the house. For me, for his mother, for the woman who'd raised him alone, loved him unconditionally, sacrificed everything. But he didn't. And slowly, painfully, I accepted that maybe he never would. Carol noticed I was distracted at work. Found me staring out the window one slow afternoon, tears running down my face. Boy trouble? She asked. Son trouble. She nodded like that explained everything. The thing about kids, she said, is they grow up thinking the world you built for them is just how the world is. They don't see the scaffolding, don't see the sacrifice. They just see the finished product and assume it was always there, solid and permanent. Did you have kids? I asked. 3. Haven't spoken to 2 of them in 15 years. They wanted things I couldn't give. Money, mostly. Approval of choices I couldn't approve. When I stopped being useful, they stopped calling. Nearly killed me at first, but then I realized something. I raised them to be independent. And they are. Just not in the way I hoped. Does it get easier? No, she said honestly, but you get stronger. And that's not the same thing, but it helps. Winter came early that year. By November, the ocean was angry and gray and tourists had vanished. The bookstore got quiet. I spent long hours organizing shelves, reading when no customers came, drinking tea that Carol made too strong. Marina started teaching me to cook. Real cooking, not the basics I'd learned as a young mother. French techniques, Italian recipes, dishes that took time and attention and love. We'd spend Sunday afternoons in her kitchen, making pasta from scratch, arguing about garlic measurements, laughing at our mistakes. You know what I love about cooking, Marina said one day, elbow deep in bread dough? It's one of the few things in life where if you put in the work, you get exactly what you deserve. No shortcuts, no luck, just effort and results. I wish life was more like cooking, I said. Maybe it is, she replied. Maybe you just spent too many years following someone else's recipe instead of writing your own. The coastal crones adopted me fully. I hosted a Tuesday dinner in my tiny apartment, serving the cassoulet Marina and I had perfected. 7 women crammed into my studio, drinking wine, telling stories, laughing so hard we disturbed the pizza place downstairs. Beth cornered me in the kitchen while I was doing dishes. You seem different than when you first got here, she said. Lighter. I feel different, I admitted. I spent so long carrying everyone else's weight, I forgot what it felt like to just carry my own. You know the best part about being old? Beth asked. Nobody expects anything from you anymore. You can be selfish and call it self-care. You can say no and call it boundaries. You can walk away and call it survival. It's the most honest you'll ever be in your life. I thought about that a lot in the weeks that followed. About honesty. About the lies I'd told myself for years. That Ryan needed me, that I was helping him grow, that my sacrifice meant something. The truth was simpler and harder. I'd been afraid of being alone, so I'd bought companionship with my pension and called it love. December arrived with snow. Rare for coastal Maine, but it came anyway, blanketing the streets in white silence. Christmas decorations appeared in shop windows. Carols played on every radio. Families shopped for presents. I didn't buy any presents. Didn't call Ryan. Didn't send cards. Just worked at the bookstore. Went home to my studio. Watched snow fall past my window. On Christmas Eve, Marina invited me for dinner. Just the 2 of us. A roasted chicken, too much wine, and old photo albums from when we were kids. We laughed at our terrible haircuts, our awkward teenage years, the boys we'd thought we'd loved. Remember when you married James? Marina asked, pointing at a wedding photo. I thought you'd won the lottery. Handsome, stable, kind. He was all those things, I said. Until the cancer took him. Then I was 30 years old with a 5-year-old kid and no idea how to survive. But you did survive. I did. I looked at the photo, me in a cheap wedding dress, James in a rented tux, both of us so young and stupid and hopeful. I survived by making Ryan my whole world. And when you make a person your whole world, you forget that worlds are supposed to have more than one person in them. You're building a new world now, Marina said. Better late than never. That night, lying in my Murphy bed, listening to Christmas music drift up from the pizza place below, I realized I was happy. Not perfectly happy. Not movie ending happy. But quietly, genuinely happy in a way I hadn't been in years. And I'd done it by losing everything. By walking away from family, from obligation, from the life I'd thought I was supposed to want. I'd done it by choosing myself. January hit like a fist. Brutal cold, icy streets, wind that cut through your coat. The bookstore was dead. Carol cut my hours to 2 days a week. Money got tight. My savings dwindled. I took a second job cleaning vacation rentals. Hard work for a woman my age, scrubbing toilets, changing sheets, hauling trash. My back ached. My knees complained. But it was honest work, and it paid cash, and I needed both. One frozen afternoon, I was changing sheets in a rental cottage when my phone rang. I'd bought a cheap cell phone for emergencies, gave the number to almost nobody. Marina. Evie? Her voice was strange, urgent. Someone's here looking for you. My heart stopped. Ryan? No, a woman. Says her name is Vanessa. The world tilted. She's at my house, Marina continued. Showed up 20 minutes ago. She looks terrible, Evie. Something's wrong. Should I tell her to leave? I closed my eyes. Vanessa. Here. In Portland. Looking for me. This couldn't be good. I'll be there in 15 minutes, I said. I drove Marina's borrowed car too fast on icy roads, my mind racing. Why would Vanessa come here? What did she want? Money? To yell at me? To drag me back? Marina's Subaru was in the driveway. Next to it sat a BMW that had seen better days. Dirty, scratched, looking out of place in Marina's modest neighborhood. I sat in the car for a moment, gathering courage. Then I walked inside. Vanessa sat at Marina's kitchen table. She looked nothing like the woman I'd last seen. No makeup, hair pulled back messily, dark circles under her eyes, wearing jeans and an old sweater instead of her usual designer everything. She looked human. Evelyn, she said when she saw me. What are you doing here? I asked. No pleasantries, no pretense. I needed to find you. Her voice broke. Actual tears in her eyes. Can we talk? Please? Alone? Marina looked at me. I nodded. She left the room, but not before squeezing my shoulder. A silent message. I'm right here if you need me. I sat across from Vanessa. Waited. We lost everything, she said finally. The apartment. Ryan's job. Everything. We're living with my parents. In their basement. And it's my fault. All of it. I said nothing. I've been thinking about that dinner, Vanessa continued. About how we treated you, about how I treated you, and I keep trying to justify it, trying to convince myself that you were dramatic, that you overreacted, that we weren't that bad. But I can't, because we were. I was. She wiped her eyes roughly. I grew up with money. Not rich, but comfortable. And when Ryan and I got married, I expected that life to continue. I expected him to provide it. And when he couldn't, I expected you to. I treated you like an obligation instead of a person, like a resource instead of his mother. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Because I'm sorry. Because Ryan won't say it, but I will. We used you, we humiliated you, we took your love and twisted it into something ugly, and you deserved better. The apology hung in the air. Part of me wanted to accept it, to forgive, to make peace. Another part, the part that had learned to protect itself, stayed cautious. Where's Ryan? I asked. At my parents' place. He doesn't know I'm here. Vanessa looked down at her hands. He's different now, quieter, defeated. He finally got what he always wanted, me to himself, no obligations, no mother to disappoint. And he hates it. He hates me a little, I think, for pushing you away, for ruining what he had. He ruined it himself, I said. We both did, Vanessa corrected, but mostly me. I saw your weakness, that you loved him too much to say no, and I exploited it. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you probably hate me, but I had to tell you. She stood up, put on her coat. I won't bother you again, she said. I just needed you to know that I see it now, what we did. And I'm ashamed. She walked toward the door. Something in me shifted. Vanessa. She turned. Do you love my son? I asked. She thought about that. I don't know anymore, she said honestly. I thought I did, but maybe I just loved what I thought he could give me. Does that make sense? Yes, I said. It makes perfect sense. She left. I heard her car start, drive away. Marina came back into the kitchen. Well, she said, that was unexpected. I sat at the table, processing. Vanessa had apologized. Vanessa had admitted fault. Vanessa had shown actual human vulnerability. It didn't change what had happened. Didn't erase years of being used and ignored. But it was something. It was a crack in the narrative I'd built, the one where Ryan and Vanessa were villains and I was the innocent victim. The truth was messier, more complicated. I'd enabled their behavior as much as they'd exploited my weakness. I'd taught Ryan that love meant sacrifice without boundaries, that giving meant never receiving, that mothers existed to be used, and now we were all paying for those lessons. That night, I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about Ryan in his in-laws' basement, defeated and trapped, kept wondering if he was thinking about me, if he understood yet what he'd lost, if he even cared. But mostly I thought about myself, about the woman I'd been, the woman I was becoming. About whether forgiveness meant reconciliation, or if you could forgive someone from a distance, wish them well, and still protect yourself. I didn't have answers, just questions that kept me up until dawn. February came with freezing rain that turned the streets into skating rinks. I slipped twice walking to work, caught myself both times, but the second fall left me shaken. My hands trembled as I unlocked the bookstore. Getting old was terrifying in ways I'd never anticipated. Every slip could be a broken hip, every cough could be pneumonia. Every moment of forgetfulness could be the beginning of something worse. Carol noticed. She always noticed. "You're jumpy today," she said, not looking up from her crossword. "Fell on the ice. Did you hurt yourself?" "Just my pride." She grunted. "Pride heals faster than bones. Count yourself lucky." But I didn't feel lucky. I felt old and alone, and suddenly aware of how fragile this new life was. One injury, one illness, one disaster, and everything I'd built could collapse. I had no safety net, no family to call, no Ryan to... No. I stopped that thought before it could finish. Ryan wasn't my safety net. He'd never been. I'd been his. A customer came in looking for a birthday present. I helped her pick out a mystery novel, wrapped it in the nice paper we saved for special occasions, made small talk about the weather, normal interactions, normal day. But underneath, fear churned. What if I got sick? What if I couldn't work? What if this whole running away thing had been a mistake? That evening, the Coastal Crones met at Beth's house. I almost didn't go, but Marina wouldn't let me cancel. "You're spiraling," she said when she picked me up. "I can see it, and spiraling alone is dangerous." She was right, she usually was. Beth's house was warm and loud. 7 women talking over each other, wine flowing, a pot of chili on the stove that smelled like heaven. I settled into a corner of the couch with a bowl and let the noise wash over me. "So Vanessa showed up," Marina announced to the group. I shot her a look. She shrugged. "What? These are your people now. They should know." Everyone turned to me with varying expressions of curiosity and concern. "The daughter-in-law?" asked Susan, a former nurse with sharp eyes. "The one who treated you like garbage?" "That's the one," I said. "What did she want?" "To apologize, apparently." Beth snorted. "Too little, too late." That's what I'd have told her. I didn't tell her anything, I admitted. I just listened. "And?" prompted Susan. "And I don't know what to do with it. The apology, it felt real, but also maybe too convenient. Like now that they've lost everything, suddenly they remember I exist." "Classic," said Helen, who'd been married 4 times. "People only value you when you're gone. Human nature." "But does that make the apology worthless?" I asked. "Can people only learn through consequences?" The room went quiet. These women understood complicated questions. They'd all lived long enough to know that life rarely offered simple answers. "Here's what I think," Susan said finally. "An apology is information. It tells you someone's capable of growth, but it doesn't obligate you to anything. You can accept it and still keep your distance. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation." I turned that over in my mind. But what if keeping my distance means I'm being cruel? What if Ryan needs me and I'm just... "Stop," Beth interrupted. "Stop right there. You're doing that thing again. That thing where you make yourself responsible for everyone else's feelings. Ryan is a grown man. If he needs help, he can ask for it like an adult instead of sending his wife to guilt-trip you." "She wasn't guilt-tripping," I said. "At least, I don't think she was." "Doesn't matter. You get to protect yourself. You get to say no. You get to build a life that doesn't include people who hurt you, even if those people are family. Especially if those people are family." Marina squeezed my hand. No one here thinks you're cruel, Evie. We think you're brave. You did something most people can't do. You left. You chose yourself. Don't second guess that now. But I was second guessing, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd been too harsh, too unforgiving, too selfish. The self-doubt was poisonous. It crept in through cracks I thought I'd sealed. Work became my refuge. At the bookstore, I could focus on simple tasks, shelving books, helping customers, organizing the chaos that Carol called a filing system. The work was mindless in the best way. It didn't require me to make big decisions or question my choices. One Thursday afternoon, an older man came in looking for poetry. He was probably in his 70s, well-dressed, with kind eyes and an accent I couldn't place. "Do you have Mary Oliver?" he asked. "We do. Poetry section, back left corner." He smiled. "Would you show me? My eyes aren't what they used to be." I led him to the poetry section, pulled out the 3 Mary Oliver collections we had in stock. He picked up one, read a few lines, looked up at me. "Do you read poetry?" he asked. "Not really. I never had time for it." "That's a shame. Poetry is for people who don't have time. It gives you back moments you didn't know you'd lost." Something about the way he said it made my throat tight. He bought all 3 books and left. I stood in the poetry section for a long time after, reading random lines from random poets. One poem stopped me cold. I don't remember who wrote it, but it said something about how the hardest thing in life is learning that love doesn't mean sacrifice, that sometimes love means letting go, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to save them. I bought the book with my employee discount, read it cover to cover that night. Cried through most of it. March arrived with mud and rain and the promise of spring that Maine never quite delivered on time. My studio apartment felt smaller every day. I was restless, anxious, waiting for something I couldn't name. Then Marina's phone rang at 3 in the morning. I heard it through the wall. We lived in the same building now. She'd helped me find the place. Heard her voice, urgent and worried. Heard her moving around. Then a knock on my door. "Evie, you awake?" I opened the door. Marina stood there in her bathrobe, phone in hand, face pale. "It's Ryan," she said. "He's in the hospital." The world tilted. "What happened?" "That was Vanessa. She's hysterical. Something about a car accident. He's okay. She says he's okay, but he's asking for you." I stood there frozen, torn between terror and something else. Something that felt like vindication. He needs me now. He finally needs me. And immediately I hated myself for thinking it. "She gave me the hospital name," Marina continued. "St. Joseph's, outside Boston. She says if you could come, but you don't have to, Evie. You don't owe him anything." "He's my son," I said. "He's also an adult who treated you terribly." "He's hurt." "So are you. So are you." We stared at each other. Marina's face said, "Don't go." My heart said the opposite. Or maybe it was just old programming, 38 years of motherhood telling me that when your child needs you, nothing else matters. "I have to go," I said. Marina sighed. "Then I'm driving you." We left at dawn. The drive from Portland to Boston took 2.5 hours in good weather. In rain, it took forever. Marina drove while I sat passenger, watching the wipers fight the downpour, my stomach churning. What would I say to him? What did he expect from me? Was this just another manipulation, another way to pull me back in? But then I'd imagine him hurt, in pain, scared, and none of the anger mattered. He was my baby, my boy. The child I'd rocked to sleep 1,000 times, who'd cried in my arms after nightmares, who'd held my hand crossing streets. How do you turn that off? How do you stop being a mother just because being a mother has hurt you? St. Joseph's was a big hospital, the kind where you could get lost for hours. We found the information desk. The woman there checked her computer. "Ryan Harper? He's in room 412, 4th floor, East Wing." My legs felt weak walking to the elevator. Marina stayed close, a steady presence. "You want me to come up with you?" she asked. "No, I need to do this alone." "I'll be in the cafeteria. Text me if you need me." I nodded. The elevator doors opened. I stepped in. Room 412 was at the end of a long hallway that smelled like antiseptic and cafeteria food. I stood outside the door for a full minute, gathering courage, before pushing it open. Ryan lay in the hospital bed looking small and breakable. His left arm was in a cast, bandages on his forehead, bruises blooming purple on his face, but alive, awake. His eyes found mine immediately. "Mom," he said, and his voice broke on the word. Vanessa sat in the chair beside his bed. She stood when I entered, looking exhausted and grateful and guilty all at once. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I didn't know if you would." I didn't respond to her, walked to Ryan's bedside, looked down at my son. "What happened?" I asked. "Black ice," he said. "I was driving to a job interview, hit a patch, car spun out, hit a barrier. They say I'm lucky. Could have been so much worse." Lucky. He looked anything but. "Are you in pain?" I asked. "They gave me something. I'm okay." He paused. "I'm glad you're here." "Vanessa said you asked for me." "I did. I've been asking for you for months, Mom. You just wouldn't listen." There it was. The accusation wrapped in vulnerability. The guilt trip disguised as honesty. "I listened for 38 years, I said quietly. "I'm still listening. I came, didn't I?" Yeah, you did." He looked away. "I'm sorry for everything, for how we treated you, for taking you for granted, for all of it. Vanessa told me she came to see you, told me what she said, and she was right. We destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too stupid to see what I had." I wanted to believe him, wanted so badly to believe that this was real growth, real change, real understanding, but I'd been burned too many times. "Why now?" I asked. "Why do you suddenly see it now that you're hurt and scared? Why not before?" He didn't have an answer, or maybe he did but couldn't say it out loud. The truth was obvious. People only change when staying the same becomes more painful than changing. "I can't be your emergency contact anymore," I said. The words came out harder than I intended. "I can't be the person you call when things fall apart. I can't be your safety net." "I don't want you to be my safety net," Ryan said. "I want you to be my mom." That's what I've always been. But being your mom cost me everything. My savings, my home, my sense of self. Do you understand that? Every time I gave you money, I was choosing you over my own survival. Every time I said yes, I was teaching you that my needs didn't matter. And you learned that lesson perfectly. Vanessa spoke up. "He knows that now. We both do." "Knowing isn't enough," I said, looking at her. "Understanding isn't enough. I need to see change. Real change. Not just words spoken in a hospital room when emotions are high." "What do you want from me?" Ryan asked. "Tell me. I'll do anything." "I don't want anything from you. That's the point. For once in your life, I want you to want something from yourself. I want you to figure out who you are when I'm not there to bail you out. I want you to grow up, Ryan. Actually, grow up." He flinched like I'd slapped him. The room fell silent except for the beeping of monitors and the sound of rain against windows. "I should go," I said finally. "Please don't," Ryan said. "Please, just stay a little longer." Something in his voice, the desperation, the fear, made me hesitate. I looked at Vanessa. She looked as lost as he did. These were two people who'd built their lives on sand and were watching it wash away. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part, the part that remembered Ryan as a boy, that remembered loving him before everything got complicated, felt sorry for them. "I'll stay an hour," I said. "But then I'm leaving, and I need you both to understand something. Me being here doesn't mean things go back to how they were. It doesn't mean I'm coming back. It just means I'm not cruel enough to abandon you when you're hurt. That's it." Ryan nodded, relief flooding his face. Vanessa sat back down. I pulled up a chair, and for the next hour we talked. Not about money or houses or the past, just small talk. How long would he be in the hospital? How was physical therapy going? Whether the food was terrible. Normal conversation that felt strange and artificial and necessary all at the same time. When the hour was up, I stood. "I'm going now," I said. "Will you come back?" Ryan asked. "I don't know." "Can I call you?" "Marina has my number. If you need to reach me, go through her." "That's not exactly making this easy, Mom." "It's not supposed to be easy," I said. "Easy is what got us here in the first place." I left before he could respond. Walked down that long hallway, took the elevator down, found Marina in the cafeteria drinking coffee that had been sitting too long. "How'd it go?" she asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. I really don't know. We drove back to Portland in silence. The rain had stopped. Weak sunlight broke through clouds. The world looked washed clean, but I felt dirtier than ever. Compromised. Like I'd betrayed myself by going. But also, and this was the confusing part, I felt lighter. Like maybe saying those things out loud, setting those boundaries, had released something I'd been carrying without knowing it. Back at my apartment, I collapsed on my Murphy bed and stared at the ceiling. My phone, Marina's old phone that I'd been using, sat on the nightstand. Silent. Empty. No calls from Ryan. No texts. Nothing. Good, I told myself. That's good. But it didn't feel good. It felt like abandonment, like I'd failed some crucial test of motherhood by walking away when he was hurt. The Coastal Crones had a different opinion when I told them at the next Tuesday dinner. You went, Beth said flatly. You actually went. He's in the hospital. So? Hospitals have staff. He doesn't need mommy. Beth, that's harsh, Susan said. Of course she went. She's his mother. Being someone's mother doesn't mean being their doormat, Beth shot back. Evie spent months building boundaries, and one phone call destroyed all of them. I didn't destroy them, I protested. I went to visit. I didn't move back. I didn't give him money. I didn't promise to fix everything. But you went, Beth repeated. And now he knows. He knows that if he's desperate enough, pathetic enough, hurt enough, you'll come running. That's not a boundary. That's a loophole. Her words stung because they were true. I had gone running. Maybe not with money, maybe not with promises, but I'd gone. And in going, I'd sent a message. I'm still here. I'm still available. I'm still yours to call when you need something. But what was I supposed to do? I asked. Ignore him? Let him think I don't care if he lives or dies? He's 38 years old, Helen said gently. If he thinks his mother not dropping everything for a broken arm means she doesn't love him, that's his problem, not yours. It was a car accident, which he survived. He wasn't dying, Evie. He was hurt and scared and wanted his mommy. And you gave him what he wanted, again. The criticism hurt. But it also woke something up in me. Because they were right. I'd fallen back into old patterns the moment Ryan pulled the emergency cord. The moment he played the I need you card, I'd folded. So what do I do now? I asked quietly. You do what you've been doing, Marina said. You live your life, you work, you make friends. You build something that doesn't depend on Ryan's approval or presence. And if he calls again, you decide each time fresh whether engaging serves you or just serves him. But how do I know the difference? You'll know, Susan said. Because when you're serving yourself, you feel stronger after. When you're just serving him, you feel emptied out. I thought about how I'd felt leaving the hospital, emptied out, exactly that. The next few weeks passed slowly. Winter dragged its feet leaving. March became April, but Maine stayed cold and gray. I worked at the bookstore, cleaned vacation rentals, came home exhausted. Ryan didn't call. Vanessa didn't show up again. The silence stretched until it became its own kind of presence, a ghost haunting my daily life. Part of me was relieved. No drama, no demands, no complicated conversations, just quiet. But another part, the part I was ashamed of, felt rejected. He'd said he wanted me in his life, but apparently only when he was desperate. Once he recovered, once things stabilized, I became irrelevant again. The pattern was so familiar it hurt. Carol noticed my mood darkening. One slow Tuesday afternoon, she looked up from her crossword and said, "What's eating you?" "Nothing." "Liar. Tell me or I'll start guessing, and my guesses are never flattering." I smiled despite myself. "My son. The one who treated you like an ATM? That's the one. What's he done now?" "Nothing. That's the problem. He asked me to be in his life, and I said I needed to see change. And now there's just silence." Carol set down her crossword. "Let me tell you something about people. They don't change because you need them to. They change when staying the same becomes unbearable. Your son hasn't hit unbearable yet. He's hit uncomfortable. And uncomfortable doesn't motivate real change. So I'm just supposed to wait? Hope he eventually figures it out? No, you're supposed to live. Actually live. Build a life so full and rich and satisfying that whether he figures it out or not becomes irrelevant to your happiness. That's the only way you win this. It doesn't feel like something you can win. Everything's something you can win if you change the rules of the game. Stop playing his game. The game where your worth is measured by his needs. Start playing your own game. I didn't know what my own game looked like. I was 68 years old. My son barely spoke to me. I worked 2 part-time jobs. I lived in a studio apartment above a pizza place. I was alone in a city where I'd only lived for 6 months. From the outside, my life looked like failure. But then I thought about the coastal crones, about Marina's kitchen and homemade pasta, about Carol's sharp tongue and good heart, about the ocean I could walk to whenever I wanted, about books and quiet mornings and the freedom to say no. Maybe it wasn't failure. Maybe it was just different from what I'd imagined. That night, I walked down to the harbor. It was cold but clear, stars visible for the first time in weeks. The water was black and vast and indifferent. It didn't care about my problems. Didn't care whether Ryan called or didn't call. It just kept moving, tied in and tied out, following rhythms older than human hurt. I stood there for a long time, listening to waves hit rocks, breathing salt air, feeling small and insignificant in the best way. And I decided something. I decided that Carol was right. I needed to stop waiting for Ryan to give me permission to be happy. Stop waiting for him to validate that I'd made the right choice. Stop measuring my success by his presence in my life. I needed to build something bigger than him. The next morning, I walked into the bookstore and asked Carol if she needed a full-time manager. She looked at me over her reading glasses. "You serious?" "Dead serious. You're 72. You're tired. You need someone to handle ordering, inventory, events. I can do that. I want to do that." "What about the cleaning job?" "I'll quit. This is what I want, a real job, a real future, something that's mine." Carol studied me for a long moment, then she grinned. "When can you start?" "Today." And just like that, I had a career again, not just a job, a career, something to build on, something that mattered. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent decades sacrificing my ambitions for Ryan, and now, in his absence, I was finally pursuing something for myself. Maybe that's what he'd actually given me by staying away. Space, permission, freedom. Or maybe I was just trying to find silver linings in abandonment. Either way, I was moving forward, with or without him. Spring finally broke through in late April. Real spring, not the fake-out Maine always threatened. The bookstore's front window caught afternoon light, warming the space in ways the radiator never could. I'd rearranged the displays, moved the new releases up front, created a local authors section, added a comfortable chair by the window where people could sit and read without buying. Carol had resisted that last change. "This isn't a library," she'd grumbled. "It's customer service," I'd countered. "People stay longer, they buy more." She'd muttered something about modern retail philosophy, ruining honest business, but she'd let me keep the chair. And I'd been right. Sales were up 12% since I'd taken over as manager. I was reorganizing the history section when the bell over the door chimed. I looked up, prepared to greet whoever'd wandered in, and froze. Ryan stood in the doorway. He looked better than he had in the hospital. The cast was gone. The bruises had faded. But something else had changed too. Something in how he held himself, quieter, smaller, like he'd shrunk somehow. "Hi, Mom," he said. My hands were still full of books. I set them down carefully on the nearest shelf, buying time to process. He'd found me. After 2 months of silence, he'd tracked me down and shown up at my workplace. "How did you know where I work?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Marina told me, eventually, after I called her about 50 times. He took a tentative step inside. "Can we talk?" Carol emerged from the back room, took one look at the situation and said, "I'm going to lunch. Hour and a half. Take your time." She grabbed her coat and left before I could protest, the bell chiming behind her like punctuation. Ryan and I stood there in the empty bookstore, surrounded by thousands of stories that weren't ours. "You shouldn't have come here," I said finally. "I know, but you wouldn't answer calls. Marina said you needed space, but it's been 2 months and I needed to see you." "Why?" The question seemed to surprise him. "Because you're my mother." "That's not a reason. That's a relationship. Why did you need to see me? What do you want, Ryan?" He flinched at my tone. "Good. I wasn't going to make this easy." "I wanted to apologize," he said. Actually apologize, not just say words. I've been thinking about everything you said in the hospital, about how I need to grow up, about how I treated you, and you were right. About all of it. I know I was right. I didn't need you to confirm it. Then what do you need? I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. That's the thing, Ryan. I don't need anything from you anymore. I've built a life here. I have a job I love, friends who actually care about me, a place that feels like home. I'm happy. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. And I did all that without you. The words landed like punches. His face crumpled. So that's it? He asked. We're just done? You're never coming back? Coming back to what? To being your emergency fund? To sitting at the end of tables while you ignore me? To funding a life I'm not even part of? It wouldn't be like that anymore. How do I know that? How do I trust that this isn't just another manipulation? You crashed your car, got scared, realized you might actually need me someday, so now you're here playing the reformed son. But what happens when things get better? When you don't need me anymore? Do I just become invisible again? That's not fair, he said quietly. Isn't it? Tell me one time, one single time in the last 5 years, when you called me just because you wanted to hear my voice. When you invited me somewhere because you enjoyed my company. When you treated me like a person instead of a resource. He opened his mouth, closed it, couldn't think of one. That's what I thought, I said. I was a terrible son, Ryan said, and his voice broke. I know that now. I took advantage of you. I let Vanessa influence how I treated you. I prioritized money and status over the woman who raised me alone, who sacrificed everything for me. I know all that. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I can barely breathe sometimes. Tears were running down his face now. Real tears. I'd seen Ryan cry exactly 3 times in his life. When his father died, when he fell off his bike at 9 and broke his collarbone, and now. Part of me wanted to comfort him. Decades of mothering instinct screamed at me to hug him, tell him it was okay, make it better. But I forced myself to stay where I was. Sorry isn't enough, I said. Sorry is just a word you say when you've hurt someone. It doesn't undo the hurt. It doesn't rebuild trust. It's just an admission of guilt. Then tell me what would be enough. Please, I'll do anything. You keep saying that, but you don't mean it. You mean you'll do anything that's convenient. Anything that doesn't require real change or discomfort. That's not true, isn't it? You want forgiveness, but you don't want consequences. You want me back in your life, but on your terms. You want things to go back to normal, but normal is what destroyed us in the first place. Ryan sank into the reading chair by the window, put his head in his hands. I'd never seen him look so defeated. Vanessa left me, he said suddenly. The confession hung in the air between us. I felt something twist in my chest. Sympathy, vindication, sadness, relief, all mixed together. When? I asked. 3 weeks ago. Packed her stuff while I was at work. Left a note. Said she couldn't do it anymore. The struggling, the poverty, living with her parents, being married to a failure. Those were her words. Failure. I'm sorry. Are you? He looked up at me. You never liked her. I didn't like how she treated me, I corrected. But I didn't want your marriage to fail, Ryan. I wanted you to be happy. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in years. Maybe ever. He laughed bitterly. You know what the worst part is? I don't even miss her. I miss the idea of her, the life we were supposed to have. But her? Who she actually was. I think I stopped seeing her years ago. The same way you stopped seeing me, I said quietly. He nodded. Yeah, the same way. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, tourists walked by with ice cream cones, even though it was barely 60 degrees. Spring in Maine made people optimistic. I got a job, Ryan said. Nothing fancy. It's support for a small company, pays $38,000 a year. That's it. No bonuses, no prestige, no corner office. It's the kind of job I would have laughed at 5 years ago. But I show up every day, do the work, collect my paycheck. And you know what? It's enough. The money's enough. The work's enough. I'm enough. That's growth, I acknowledged. I'm seeing a therapist too, twice a week. Insurance barely covers it, costs me $70 a session, but I go. We talk about you a lot. About how I treated you, about the patterns I learned, the entitlement, all of it. What does your therapist say? That I used you as an emotional crutch and a financial safety net instead of developing my own resilience. That I never learned to fail because you always caught me. That loving someone doesn't mean absorbing all their problems. I felt tears prick my eyes. Your therapist sounds smart. She is. She also said that apologizing to you wasn't about getting you back. It's about acknowledging harm. Even if you never forgive me, even if we never speak again, I needed to say it, to own it. This was different. This wasn't the Ryan who'd shown up at my house demanding I pay Vanessa's birthday dinner. This wasn't even the Ryan from the hospital, desperate and scared. This was someone who'd actually done work. Real, uncomfortable, painful work. But was it enough? I don't know if I can trust this, I said honestly. I want to, but I've been fooled before. I know, and I don't blame you. He stood up. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm not even asking you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying, that I finally see what I did, and that whether you're in my life or not, I'm going to keep trying, because I owe that to myself now, not just to you. He walked toward the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. I'm living in Boston now, he said. Small apartment in Dorchester, studio, like yours. It's not much, but it's mine. I'm paying my own bills, cooking my own meals, figuring out who I am when nobody's enabling me, and it's hard, Mom. It's really hard, but I'm doing it. I'm proud of you, I said. The words surprised me, but they were true. His face broke into something between a smile and a sob. That's all I ever wanted, for you to be proud of me. I was always proud of you. That was never the problem. Then what was? You didn't respect me. Pride without respect is just pity. He nodded slowly, processing. You're right, and I'm working on that too, the respect part. Understanding that you're a person with needs and limits and worth that has nothing to do with what you can give me. He opened the door. The bell chimed. Can I call you sometime? He asked. No agenda, no emergencies, just a talk? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Once a month, I said finally. You can call Marina's number once a month, and I get to decide if I answer. If you start asking for money or making me feel guilty, I'm hanging up and that's it, forever. Do you understand? I understand. And Ryan, I need you to know something. I love you. I've always loved you. But I love myself now too. And if I have to choose between the two, I'm choosing me. Every single time. That's how it should be, he said softly. I'm learning that. He left. I watched through the window as he walked down the street, hands in his pockets, heading toward wherever he'd parked. He looked lonely, lost, but also somehow more solid than I'd seen him in years. Carol came back 20 minutes later with 2 coffees. So? She asked, handing me one. So he apologized, for real this time. You believe him? I think he believes himself. Whether that translates to actual change, I don't know. But I told him he could call once a month. Maybe that was stupid. Maybe it was hope, Carol said. And hope isn't stupid, it's just dangerous. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I couldn't focus on inventory or customers or anything except replaying the conversation in my head. Had I been too harsh, too soft? Had I given him false hope or genuine boundaries? That evening, I walked down to the harbor like I'd been doing every night since moving here. The ocean was rough, waves whitecapping in the wind. A storm was coming in from the Atlantic. I could smell it in the air. My phone buzzed. Marina. Ryan called me, she said without preamble. Told me about the bookstore. You okay? I don't know. Maybe. Want company? Always. She met me at the harbor 20 minutes later with a thermos of spiked hot chocolate. We sat on the cold rocks and watched the storm roll in, drinking chocolate that burned going down. You gave him a chance, Marina said. A small one. That's more than most people would do. Is it enough? Too much? I keep going back and forth. There's no right answer, Evie. You're navigating something that doesn't have a map. Mothers and sons, betrayal and forgiveness, boundaries and love. It's all messy. The best you can do is trust your gut. My gut's been wrong before. So has everyone's. That's called being human. We sat in silence as the first raindrops started falling. The storm was coming faster than predicted. I need to tell you something, Marina said suddenly. I've been putting it off because the timing never felt right, but there's never going to be a perfect moment. My stomach dropped. What is it? I'm sick. Stage 3 lung cancer. Caught it 2 months ago. I'm starting treatment next week, but the doctors aren't optimistic. They're giving me maybe a year, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. The world tilted. Rain fell harder now, soaking us both, but neither of us moved. Marina, I whispered. I know, trust me, I know. She took a shaky breath. I wasn't going to tell you at all. Didn't want to burden you when you're dealing with your own stuff. But then I realized that's exactly what you've been fighting against. People keeping you at arm's length, not trusting you with their pain, only wanting you around when it's convenient. How long have you known? Since February? The persistent cough I kept ignoring finally got bad enough that I went to the doctor. By then it had already spread. Why didn't you tell me? Because I watched you finally start living for yourself and I didn't want to drag you back into caretaker mode. But Helen said I was being a coward. Said you deserved to know. Said keeping it from you was its own kind of disrespect. I grabbed her hand, squeezed it hard. We sat there in the rain, 2 women who'd survived too much already, facing something neither of us could fix. I'm going to be there, I said. For appointments, for treatments, for whatever you need. I know. That's why I'm telling you now. Because I need you, Evie, and I'm learning to ask instead of suffering alone. We walked back to our building, soaked and shivering. Inside Marina's apartment, she made real hot chocolate while I changed into the dry clothes she'd lent me. We curled up on her couch under blankets that smelled like lavender and cat. I'm scared, Marina admitted. Me too. Not of dying exactly, more of what it's going to be like. The treatments, the deterioration, becoming someone people have to take care of. You've taken care of me since I got here. That's different. You weren't sick. You were just rebuilding. And you'll rebuild too, whatever that looks like. However long you have, we'll make it good. She smiled, but it was sad. You sound so sure. I'm not, but I'm learning to fake confidence until it becomes real. The coastal crones rallied when Marina told them at the next Tuesday dinner. Everyone had a story about someone they'd known with cancer, treatment plans that worked or didn't, advice about nutrition and attitude and alternative therapies. It was overwhelming and comforting all at once. We're going to take shifts, Beth announced. Someone with you at every appointment, someone to cook when you're too sick, someone to clean, to run errands, whatever you need. I don't want to be a burden, Marina protested weakly. Too late, Helen said. You're our burden now. Get used to it. And they meant it. Over the next weeks, as Marina started chemotherapy, the crones descended. They organized schedules, brought meals, sat with her during the bad days. I cut my work hours at the bookstore to be there more, and Carol didn't protest. Family comes first, Carol said. Even chosen family. Watching Marina go through treatment was brutal. The nausea, the fatigue, the way cancer and chemo together stripped away the vital, funny woman I knew and left someone fragile in her place. Some days she couldn't get out of bed. Other days she'd rally, insisting on cooking or going for short walks, desperate to prove she was still herself. I hate this, she said one particularly bad afternoon. I hate being weak. I hate needing help. I hate everything about this. I know, I said, holding her hair while she vomited into a bucket. How do you stand it? Taking care of people who can't take care of themselves? You're not Ryan, I said. You're not using me. You're sick. That's different. Is it though? You're still sacrificing your time, your energy, your life to manage someone else's problems. The difference is respect. You're grateful. You see me. You do the same for me if our positions were reversed. Ryan just took. She nodded weakly. Okay. I can live with that distinction. You better live with it. I didn't move all the way to Maine just to lose you. She laughed, then winced. Even laughing hurt. May melted into June. Ryan called once, exactly as we'd agreed. The conversation was awkward, stilted, like 2 strangers trying to remember a language they'd once spoken fluently. How's work? I asked. Good. Boring, but good. How's the bookstore? Busy? Tourist season's starting. That's good. Silence stretched. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line, searching for words. I don't know what to say, he admitted finally. I want to ask about your life, but I don't know anything about it anymore. And I want to tell you about mine, but it feels selfish to burden you with details. Try anyway, I said. Tell me one thing about your life right now. Anything. He thought about it. I learned to cook. Real cooking, not just frozen dinners. Last week I made lasagna from scratch. It took 4 hours and the kitchen was a disaster, but it tasted incredible. I was so proud of myself. Something softened in my chest. That's wonderful, Ryan. I thought about you the whole time I was making it, about all those meals you made when I was growing up, how you always made it look easy. It's not easy at all. No, it's not. I never said thank you for any of it. The meals, the laundry, the rides to school, the packed lunches, the homework help. I just took it all as my due. You were a child. I was a child until I was 18. After that, I was just entitled. We talked for 45 minutes. When we hung up, I felt cautiously hopeful. Maybe this could work. Maybe we could build something new from the rubble of what we'd destroyed. Or maybe I was just setting myself up for disappointment again. July brought heat and tourists and Marina's prognosis getting worse. The chemo wasn't working as well as hoped. The cancer had spread to her liver. Her doctors adjusted the treatment plan, but their faces said what their words didn't. Time was running out. I don't want to die in a hospital, Marina told me one evening. We were sitting on her porch, watching fireflies. Then you won't. I want to be here, in my house, with people I love. Can you help me arrange that? Of course. We spent the next week setting up hospice care, organizing the house, preparing for what was coming. The crones helped, everyone moving with grim efficiency. Nobody cried. Not yet. We were saving tears for when they'd actually help. Marina's sister called from Arizona, said she'd try to visit but probably couldn't afford the flight. Marina told her not to bother. Some family is blood, she said after hanging up. Some family is choice. I'm dying surrounded by choice, and that's better than most people get. Ryan called in July right on schedule. I almost didn't answer, was on my way to Marina's with groceries, but something made me pick up. Mom, you okay? You sound distracted. My cousin's dying, cancer. I'm heading to her place now. Silence. Then, the one who took you in? Marina? Yes. I'm so sorry. He paused. Do you need anything? I could drive up, help with whatever you need. The offer surprised me. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. If you'll let me. I thought about it. Thought about Ryan meeting the coastal crones, seeing my new life, understanding who I'd become without him. It felt dangerous, vulnerable. But maybe that was okay. Come next weekend, I said. Saturday. I'll text you the address. I'll be there. He showed up Saturday morning in a beat-up Honda Civic that had definitely seen better days. Parked on the street, walked up to Marina's house where I was sitting on the porch with coffee. He looked different. Thinner. Older. His clothes were clean but worn. The watch Vanessa had bought him was gone, replaced by a $20 Casio. He looked like someone who'd learned what actually mattered. Hi, Mom, he said. Hi, baby. The endearment slipped out without thought. His eyes got wet. Come on, I said. There's people I want you to meet. Inside, Marina was awake and lucid. Good day. She sized Ryan up immediately. So, you're the son, she said. Yes, ma'am. Ryan Harper. Thank you for taking care of my mom when I failed to. I didn't take care of her. I just gave her space to take care of herself. That's what she needed. I understand that now. Marina studied him. You look like her, around the eyes. I hope I act like her too. Eventually. I'm working on it. Something in his honesty must have satisfied her because she nodded. Sit down. Tell me something true about yourself. Ryan sat, thought about it. I'm 38 years old and I'm finally growing up. It's harder and more humbling than I ever imagined. But I'm doing it. Not for anyone else, just for me. Good, Marina said. That's the only way it works. The coastal crones arrived throughout the day, bringing food and company. Ryan met them all, helped serve lunch, washed dishes without being asked, listened more than he talked. I watched him navigate my new world and saw glimpses of the boy I'd raised, kind, thoughtful, capable, buried under years of entitlement. That evening, after everyone had left and Marina was sleeping, Ryan and I sat on the porch again. I like your life here, he said. I like who you are here. Who am I here? Yourself. Just completely yourself. Not performing, not shrinking, not managing everyone else's emotions, just existing in your own skin. It took me 68 years to figure out how. Better late than never. We watched the sun set over the harbor, painting everything gold. I need to tell you something, Ryan said. Vanessa's pregnant. The words hit like a physical blow. What? Found out last week. She called to tell me. Said the baby's not mine. She's been seeing someone new, but she thought I should know she's moving on, starting a family. Everything we were supposed to have. How do you feel about that? Relieved, mostly. That sounds terrible, but it's true. I don't want kids with Vanessa. I don't want anything with Vanessa. I want to figure out who I am before I try to be someone's husband or father again. That's mature. That's therapy. He smiled sadly. But also watching you with Marina, with your friends, seeing how you show up for people who actually appreciate it, it made me realize I never learned how to do that, how to be present, how to give without resentment, how to receive without entitlement. Those are hard lessons. Everything worth learning is hard. We sat in comfortable silence until the stars came out. Then Ryan stood up, said he should head back to Boston, had work Monday morning. Will you call me? He asked. Not just when it's the scheduled time. If something happens with Marina, if you need anything, will you actually call me? Maybe, I said honestly. I'll take maybe. He hugged me goodbye. A real hug, not the awkward side squeeze we'd defaulted to for years. And when he left, I didn't feel emptied out. I felt full. Marina died on a Tuesday morning in late August. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just a quiet slipping away while I held her hand and the ocean sounds drifted through her open window. One moment she was breathing, shallow and labored. The next moment she wasn't. It was that simple and that devastating. The hospice nurse checked her pulse, looked at me with professional sympathy, and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." Loss. Such a small word for such an enormous absence. I sat with Marina's body for an hour after the nurse left to make the necessary calls. Just sat there holding her cooling hand, talking to her about nothing important. The weather. The bookstore. A stupid thing Hemingway the cat had done yesterday. All the mundane details that make up a life, that only matter because someone's there to share them with. Thank you, I said finally, for everything, for taking me in, for showing me what real family looks like, for dying honest instead of making me guess how bad it was. Thank you. Her face looked peaceful. Marina had been terrified of dying, but death itself looked gentle on her. The coastal crones showed up within the hour, a wave of fierce women in various states of grief. They descended on Marina's house with casseroles and tears and organizational efficiency. Beth took charge of funeral arrangements. Susan called the few distant relatives who needed to know. Helen started sorting through Marina's things with the practiced hands of someone who'd done this too many times before. I called Ryan. He answered on the first ring. Mom? She died this morning. Marina, she's gone. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. Do you need me to come? No, yes, I don't know. There's nothing to do. She's just gone, and I don't know what to do with that. I'm coming anyway. I'll be there in 3 hours. He made it in 2.5, walked into Marina's house, where I was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing, and pulled me into a hug. I broke. Just completely fell apart in my son's arms, sobbing like a child, all the grief I'd been holding back pouring out. I've got you, he kept saying. I've got you, Mom. I'm here. And he was. For the next week, Ryan stayed, helped organize the memorial service, greeted people I didn't have the strength to greet, made sure I ate even when food tasted like ashes. He slept on Marina's couch, drove me wherever I needed to go, and never once asked for anything in return. The memorial was small. Marina had wanted it that way. The coastal crones, a handful of bookstore regulars, a couple of distant cousins who flew in out of obligation more than love. Carol gave a speech about Marina's fierce loyalty and inability to suffer fools. I tried to speak, but couldn't get past "she saved my life" before breaking down. Ryan stepped in, finished my thought for me. Marina gave my mother a home when I failed to, he said to the small crowd. She gave her friendship without conditions, support without judgment, and love without price tags. She showed my mother what family should look like, and in doing that, she showed me too. I never met her before last month, but I'm grateful she existed. The world's smaller and colder without her. People cried. I cried. Even Beth cried, though she pretended it was allergies. After the service, we scattered Marina's ashes in the harbor. She'd left specific instructions. No urn, no keeping her on mantles, just give her back to the ocean. So we did. Stood on the rocks where Marina and I had sat so many evenings and released her into the waves. The ashes caught the wind, swirled out over the water, and disappeared. Gone. Just like that. The house felt enormous and empty after everyone left. Marina had left it to me in her will. Another shock I hadn't expected. The lawyer had called me in, handed me paperwork, explained that Marina had changed her will 2 months ago, specifically to make sure I'd have a home even after she was gone. She said you'd try to refuse it, the lawyer had said. She told me to tell you that refusing would dishonor her memory. Her words exactly. So I had a house now. A real house with a garden and a porch and ghosts in every room. I didn't know if I could live there. Didn't know if I could wake up every morning in the place where Marina had died, where her absence would scream at me from every corner. But I also didn't know if I could leave. Ryan stayed for 2 weeks total, helped me pack up Marina's clothes for donation, sorted through papers and photographs, fixed the leaky faucet in the kitchen that had been dripping for months. He didn't talk much, just worked alongside me, a quiet presence that didn't demand anything. The night before he had to go back to Boston, we sat on Marina's porch, my porch now, I had to remember that, drinking the expensive whiskey someone had brought to the memorial. I have something to tell you, Ryan said, and I need you to just listen until I'm done, okay? My stomach tensed. Okay, I've been offered a job in Portland, IT manager for a nonprofit. It pays less than my Boston job, but it's better work, more responsibility, actually meaningful. And it would mean living here, near you. He rushed on before I could respond. I'm not asking permission. I'm not trying to invade your space or force myself back into your life. The job's real. The timing's just coincidental. But I need you to know that if I take it, I'm not expecting anything from you. Not dinners every week, not playing happy family, not pretending the last 5 years didn't happen. I just wanted you to know before you heard it from someone else or ran into me at the grocery store. I took a long drink of whiskey. Let it burn. Do you want the job? I asked finally. Yeah, I do. The work's exactly what I've been looking for. And honestly, after these 2 weeks, I like Portland. It feels like a place where I could start over for real. Then take it. You're sure? Ryan, I can't control where you live, and I don't want to. If you take this job and move here and then try to fall back into old patterns, I'll shut you out. You know that, right? Just because we're in the same city doesn't mean you get unlimited access to me. I know. But if you're here, actually doing the work you say you're doing, actually being the person you're trying to become, then maybe we can build something, slowly, carefully. Something that doesn't look like what we had before. That's all I want, he said quietly. A chance to show you I've changed, not with words, with time. He moved to Portland in September, found a small apartment in the Old Port, walking distance from his new office. We didn't see each other often at first. Once every couple weeks for coffee, brief and slightly awkward, both of us testing the boundaries of this new relationship. But slowly, carefully, something shifted. He'd text me pictures of meals he'd cooked, asking for recipe advice. I'd send him book recommendations. He started coming to the bookstore on his lunch breaks, browsing without buying, just being there. I started inviting him to Coastal Crone's dinners. The group had decided to keep meeting even without Marina, a way of honoring her memory. The Crones interrogated him mercilessly the first few times. So you're the son who drove Evie away, Beth said. No preamble, no politeness. Yes, ma'am, Ryan answered. That's me. And now you're here why? Guilty conscience? Hoping to get back in the will? There is no will. Mom's already told me that. And yes, guilty conscience. Also genuine desire to be better, to be someone worth knowing. Beth studied him. Actions prove intentions. Don't waste our time with pretty words. I won't. And he didn't. Over the following months, Ryan showed up. Not just for me, but for the Crones too. When Susan's car broke down, he spent his Saturday fixing it. When Helen needed help moving furniture, he was there. When Beth's computer crashed, he recovered all her files for free. He was building trust the only way that mattered, through consistency. October brought crisp air and tourists leaving, and the bookstore slowing down enough that I could actually think. Carol had started talking about retiring for real, maybe selling me the store if I was interested. I was. The idea of owning something, building something that was entirely mine felt revolutionary. I was learning to dream again. Small dreams at first, expanding the bookstore, adding a coffee bar, hosting author events. But dreams nonetheless. One evening, Ryan showed up at my door unannounced. He looked nervous, holding something wrapped in brown paper. "I made you something," he said. "It's probably stupid, but I wanted you to have it." I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a photo album, handmade, leather-bound, filled with pictures of us from throughout his life. But not just any pictures. Underneath each photo, he'd written memories. Detailed memories of moments I thought he'd forgotten. "You making pancakes shaped like animals when I was 5, read one caption. "You stayed up until 2 a.m. learning how to make a dinosaur because I'd mentioned wanting one. I was so excited I couldn't eat it. "You coming to every single one of my soccer games, even when we both knew I was terrible," read another. "You cheered louder than anyone else. I was embarrassed then. I'm grateful now." Page after page of memories, of moments I'd thought were invisible, unappreciated, lost to time. "I've been working on it for 3 months, Ryan said. "Going through old photos, remembering, writing it all down. I wanted you to know that I saw it all. Maybe not when it was happening, but I see it now. Every sacrifice, every moment of love, every time you chose me over yourself. I see it." I couldn't speak, just held the album and cried while my son stood awkwardly in my doorway, not sure if he'd done something wonderful or terrible. "Thank you," I finally managed. "This is the best gift you've ever given me." His face broke into relief. "Really? Really?" He left after a few more minutes of awkward conversation. I spent the rest of the evening going through the album, reliving a life I'd lived but hadn't realized anyone else had witnessed. November came with early snow. The bookstore's heat was unreliable, and I spent most days wearing 3 layers and fingerless gloves. Carol officially announced she wanted to retire by spring, and yes, she'd sell me the store if I could come up with the down payment. I ran the numbers. With what I had left from selling my old house, Marina's small life insurance policy she'd left me, and a loan I could probably get, it was possible. Barely. I'd be financially stretched thin, working constantly, taking a massive risk at an age when most people were downsizing. I told Carol yes anyway. "You're sure?" she asked. "This is a lot of work, long hours, financial pressure, not exactly a relaxing retirement." "I don't want a relaxing retirement," I said. "I want a life that matters." "Then it's yours. We'll work out the details." I told Ryan that night over dinner, actual dinner at my house, the first time I'd cooked for him since moving to Portland. He was genuinely excited, full of ideas about marketing and social media and ways to expand. I let him talk, watching him get animated and passionate about something that had nothing to do with himself. This was who he was becoming, someone who got excited about other people's dreams. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said suddenly. "I know I said that before, but I mean it differently now. I'm proud that you left, that you built this life, that you're taking this risk. You're braver than I'll ever be." "You left too," I pointed out. "Left your marriage, left your old life, started over. That takes bravery." "I left because I had no choice. You left because you chose yourself. That's different." Maybe it was. Or maybe we were both just survivors, doing what we had to do to stay alive. Christmas approached. Ryan asked tentatively if I wanted to spend it together. I said yes, but at my house, with the Crones. He agreed immediately. No pushback, no demands that it be just the 2 of us. Christmas morning was chaotic and loud and perfect. The Crones descended with food and wine and presents. Ryan helped cook, washed dishes, made everyone laugh with stories about his terrible apartment and the neighbor who played tuba at midnight. He fit in. Actually fit in. These fierce, damaged, wonderful women accepted him because he'd earned it. After everyone left and we were cleaning up, Ryan handed me a small box. "I know we said no expensive gifts," he said. "This isn't expensive, but it's important." Inside was a key. Just a simple key on a plain keychain. "It's to my apartment," Ryan explained. "I'm not asking you to use it. I'm not expecting you to show up or check on me or anything like that. But I wanted you to have it. Because for 38 years I had a key to your home and treated it like it was mine. Like I had the right to take and never give back. This is me saying, my home is your home. Finally. If you ever need anything, if you're ever in trouble, if you just want a place to go, you have a key. No conditions. No expectations, just love. My throat closed up. Ryan, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to have it. But I did have something to say. Something I'd been holding back, afraid of jinxing it or being wrong or getting hurt again. I forgive you, I said. For all of it. For how you treated me, for what you took, for the years you wasted. I forgive you. He started crying. I don't deserve that. Forgiveness isn't about deserving, it's about releasing. I'm not carrying it anymore. The hurt, the anger, the resentment. I'm putting it down. Not because you've earned forgiveness, but because I deserve peace. We hugged. A real hug. The kind that meant something. January brought more snow and the final paperwork for the bookstore. I officially became the owner on January 15th. Carol threw a small party, invited regulars, gave a speech about how the store was in good hands. Evelyn's going to do things I never would have thought of, Carol said. She's going to drag this place into the 21st century. She's going to make it successful in ways I never bothered to, and I'm proud to hand it over to her. Everyone cheered. I cried. Again. I was crying a lot these days, but they were good tears, happy tears. The kind that meant I was actually alive instead of just surviving. Ryan showed up to the party with flowers and a card signed by all his coworkers at the nonprofit. People I'd never met, sending congratulations. Because Ryan had told them about me, had bragged about me, had made me part of his life in a way that included other people, not just used me as a private resource. February marked 1 year since Marina had told me about her cancer. The Crones held a memorial dinner, sharing stories about her, laughing and crying in equal measure. Marina would have hated the sentimentality, would have told us to stop being maudlin and drink more wine. So that's what we did. After dinner, I walked down to the harbor alone, stood where Marina and I had scattered her ashes. The ocean was black and endless, stars reflected on its surface. I bought the bookstore, I told the ocean, told Marina's ghost. I'm staying, building a life here. You'd probably think I'm crazy for taking on this much at my age, but you'd also be proud. I think, I hope. The waves didn't answer, but I felt something settle in my chest anyway. Permission, approval, or maybe just acceptance that I was doing okay without her. March brought Ryan's birthday. He turned 39. I invited him over for dinner, just the two of us. Cooked his favorite meal from childhood, pot roast with potatoes and carrots, the way I used to make it before I got too tired to cook. After dinner, we sat on my couch. Marina's couch, but mine now. Drinking coffee and talking about nothing important. His job, my bookstore, the weather, the comfortable conversation of people who knew each other well. Can I ask you something? Ryan said suddenly. And you can tell me to mind my own business if it's too personal. Ask. Are you happy? Actually happy? Or are you just making the best of a bad situation? I thought about that. Really thought about it. I'm happy, I said finally. Not perfectly happy. I still miss Marina. I still have days where I wonder if I made a mistake leaving my old life. I still wake up scared sometimes that this will all fall apart. But yeah, I'm happy. Happier than I've been in decades. Good. That's all I wanted to know. Are you happy? He considered. Getting there. Therapy's helping. The job's good. Living here is good. Having you in my life again, on terms that don't destroy you, is good. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I can see it from here. That's all any of us can ask for. We sat in comfortable silence. Outside, spring was starting to fight its way through Maine's reluctant winter. Crocuses pushing through snow, days getting longer, the promise of warmth eventually. April brought an unexpected letter. Official letterhead, lawyer's seal, the works. My heart sank when I saw it. Legal mail was never good news. But this letter wasn't bad. It was from the organization I donated money to after selling my house, the shelter for elderly women escaping financial abuse. They were naming their new wing after me, the Harper Wing. They wanted me to come to the dedication ceremony in June. I stared at the letter for a long time. I donated that money anonymously, never expecting recognition, never wanting it, just trying to do something good with the pieces of my broken life. but they'd found me anyway, and they wanted to honor me. I called Ryan. Something weird happened. Weird good or weird bad? Weird good, I think. I read him the letter. He was quiet for a moment. You donated money to a shelter? He asked finally. When? After I sold the house, before I left. I wanted the money to go somewhere that would have helped me if I'd needed it. Mom, that's incredible. You have to go to the ceremony. I don't know. It feels strange, like I'm being praised for running away from my problems. You're being honored for helping people. That's different, and I think you should go. I'll come with you if you want. Moral support. June came faster than expected. The dedication ceremony was in Massachusetts, 2 hours south. Ryan drove. We made a road trip of it, stopping at diners and scenic overlooks, taking our time. The shelter was bigger than I'd imagined. A converted mansion with extensive grounds, multiple buildings, space for 50 women and their families. The Harper Wing was the newest addition, a medical center with exam rooms, therapy offices, and a pharmacy. The director gave a speech about how my donation had made it possible, how it would help hundreds of women over the years, how one person's generosity could create ripples that touched countless lives. They asked me to speak. I hadn't prepared anything. Walked up to the podium with shaking hands and looked out at the crowd, staff, residents, board members, local officials. I don't feel like a hero, I said. I feel like someone who got lucky. Lucky that I had resources to escape. Lucky that I had a cousin who took me in. Lucky that I lived long enough to understand that love without respect isn't love at all. This donation isn't charity, it's gratitude. Because even though I didn't need this shelter, I could have. And knowing it exists, knowing that women have somewhere to go when their families treat them like ATMs, when their children exploit their love, when they're too tired to keep fighting, knowing that makes me feel like my pain meant something. Like maybe I survived so I could help others survive too. The applause was thunderous. Several women approached me afterward with tears in their eyes, sharing their stories. Stories that sounded too much like mine. Sons who used them. Daughters who manipulated them. Families who took and took until there was nothing left. You give us hope, one woman said. You're proof that it's not too late, that we can start over. I hugged her, hugged them all. These women who were me, who could have been me, who were fighting the same battle I'd fought. On the drive home, Ryan was quiet. You okay? I asked. I'm processing, he said, hearing those stories. Realizing that's what I was doing to you, that I was part of a pattern, a cycle of abuse that destroys people. It's hard to sit with. But you're sitting with it. That's what matters. Those women were talking about their kids like they were monsters, and I was that monster, Mom. I was exactly what they were running from. You were. Past tense. You're not anymore. How can you be sure? Because you're here. Because you drove me to this event even though it meant facing what you'd done. Because you listen when I say no. Because you've spent a year proving through actions, not words, that you've changed. That's how I'm sure. He nodded, but I could see him struggling with it. Good. Guilt was healthy as long as it motivated growth instead of paralysis. July brought my 69th birthday. The Crones threw a party at the bookstore, which was thriving now, by the way. I'd added the coffee bar, started hosting author events, built a website that actually worked. Revenue was up 40%. I was exhausted and exhilarated and more alive than I'd felt in years. Ryan gave me a card. Inside was a check for $5,000. I can't accept this, I said immediately. It's not a gift. It's a payment. I've been calculating everything I took from you over the years, adjusting for interest. This is the first installment. I'll pay you back the whole $47,000. It'll take time, but I'll do it. Ryan, I need to do this, please. Let me make this right. I looked at the check. $5,000. Money I could use for the bookstore, for my savings, for security. But more than that, evidence. Proof that he understood what he'd taken. Proof that he was trying to repair the damage. Okay, I said, but only if you're doing this from surplus, not necessity. Don't hurt yourself to pay me back. I'm doing it from both. I'm choosing to hurt a little financially so I can heal emotionally. That's what making amends looks like. I deposited the check. Over the following months, more checks came. Not always the same amount, sometimes 1,000, sometimes just a few hundred, depending on his budget. But they kept coming, regular, consistent, proof. August marked 18 months since I'd walked out of that restaurant. The Coastal Crones threw a freedom anniversary party, celebrating not the pain I'd endured, but the choice I'd made to save myself. To Evie, Beth raised her glass, who taught us that it's never too late to choose yourself, who proved that family is an obligation, it's respect, who showed us that loving yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Everyone drank. I cried. Again. Would I ever stop crying at these things? September brought something unexpected. A little girl with curly hair and curious eyes appeared in the bookstore one Saturday afternoon, holding Ryan's hand. My heart stopped. "Mom," Ryan said nervously. "This is Lily, my daughter." The world tilted. "You're what? Can we talk, please?" We went to my office in the back. Lily stayed in the main store with Carol, who'd immediately pulled out coloring books and cookies. Ryan sat across from me, looking terrified. "Vanessa called 2 weeks ago," he said. "The guy she was seeing left. She's overwhelmed. Can't handle being a single mother. And she remembered that whatever else is true about me, I always wanted to be a father. She asked if I wanted to meet Lily, if I wanted to be involved." "Is she yours?" I asked. "Biologically?" "No, we did a paternity test. She's not mine. But Mom, the moment I met her, the moment she looked at me with those eyes, it didn't matter. She's 3 years old. She's scared. She's confused. And she needs someone stable, someone who'll show up." "So you're what? Adopting her?" "Vanessa's signing over partial custody. I'll have Lily every other week. And before you ask, yes, I can handle it. I have a 2-bedroom apartment now, a stable job, a support system. I'm ready for this." "Are you asking my permission?" "No, I'm asking for your help. Not financially, not to babysit, just to be her grandmother. To be part of her life the way you wanted to be part of mine. Can you do that?" I looked through the office window at Lily, who was seriously coloring a picture of a dragon. She looked nothing like Ryan, nothing like me, just a random kid who'd gotten caught in the chaos of her mother's bad choices. But she also looked sweet, hopeful, deserving of better than she'd been given. "Bring her back here," I said. Ryan fetched Lily. She came into the office clutching her dragon picture, shy but curious. "Hi, Lily," I said gently. "I'm Evelyn. I'm Ryan's mom." "Are you my grandma?" she asked in that blunt way kids have. I looked at Ryan. He looked back, hopeful and terrified. "I could be," I said carefully, "if you want me to be. But that's your choice. Nobody's going to force you to call me anything or pretend we're something we're not. We'll just be friends first, and if we become more than friends, that's wonderful, and if we don't, that's okay too." Lily considered this seriously, then she held out her dragon picture. "I made this for you," she said, "because Ryan said you like stories and dragons are in stories. I took the picture. It was objectively terrible. The dragon looked more like a lumpy snake. The colors went outside the lines. Nothing was proportional. It was perfect." "Thank you," I said. "This is beautiful. Can I hang it in my office?" Her face lit up. "Really?" "Really." I taped it to the wall next to my desk. Lily beamed. Ryan looked like he might cry. Over the following weeks, Lily became a regular fixture in my life. Ryan would bring her to the bookstore on his custody days. She'd sit in the children's section, reading picture books, occasionally wandering up to ask me questions about stories or life, or why the ocean was salty. She was exhausting and delightful in equal measure. Nothing like raising Ryan. I was older, tiredness hit harder, patience wore thin faster. But also nothing like raising Ryan because I wasn't responsible for her, wasn't paying for her, wasn't sacrificing myself. I was just a grandmother, optional, present by choice, not obligation. It was surprisingly wonderful. October brought my 70th birthday. Ryan and Lily threw me a party at my house, the house I'd inherited from Marina that I'd finally made fully mine. The Crones came. Carol came. People from the bookstore came. My little studio had been transformed into an actual home, full of books and plants and photographs, full of life. Lily gave me a card she'd made herself. Inside, in wobbly crayon letters, "I love you, Grandma Evie." Grandma Evie. I'd never asked her to call me that. She'd chosen it herself. I cried, obviously. Ryan hugged me while Lily looked concerned. Are you sad? Lily asked. No, baby, I'm happy. Sometimes people cry when they're happy. That's weird. Yeah, it kind of is. That night, after everyone left and Lily had fallen asleep on my couch, Ryan and I sat on the porch watching stars. Thank you, he said quietly, for giving me another chance, for letting Lily into your life, for not making me pay forever for who I used to be. You're still paying, I pointed out. Monthly installments. He smiled. True, but you know what I mean. You could have stayed angry, could have kept me at arm's length forever, could have refused to meet Lily out of spite or self-protection. But you didn't. You chose Grace. I chose myself, I corrected. Grace was just a side effect. I let you back in because it served me, not because I felt guilty or obligated. I wanted a relationship with you, but only the version of you that respects me. And somehow you became that version. I'm still becoming it every day. It's not finished. Nothing's ever finished. We're all just works in progress. December came. 2 years since I'd walked out of that restaurant. 2 years since I'd chosen myself over the people who were destroying me. 2 years since I'd started over at an age when most people were winding down. The bookstore was thriving. I'd hired 2 part-time employees so I didn't have to work every day. Had built something sustainable and profitable and meaningful. My relationships were healthy. The Crones were family. Ryan was becoming someone I actually enjoyed spending time with. Lily was teaching me how to love without losing myself. I was happy. Actually, genuinely happy in a way that didn't depend on anyone else's validation or presence. Christmas Eve, Ryan and Lily came over for dinner. I'd cooked pot roast again, Lily's new favorite. After dinner, we sat by my small Christmas tree, drinking cocoa and listening to carols on the radio. Grandma Evie? Lily asked. Can I tell you something? Of course, sweetheart. My mom says you ran away from Ryan. Is that true? The question hung in the air. Ryan looked mortified, but I saw it for what it was, a child trying to understand a complicated story. Yes, I said honestly. I did run away, but not because I didn't love him, because I loved myself more. And sometimes, when people hurt you over and over, the only way to make them stop is to leave. But you're back now, right? You and Ryan are friends again. We are. Because he stopped hurting me. He learned to be kind. He grew up. Lily nodded seriously. Then she climbed into my lap, something she rarely did. She was shy about physical affection unless she initiated it. I'm glad you came back, she said. I like having a grandma. I'm glad too, baby. Ryan watched us with tears in his eyes. Later, after Lily had fallen asleep in the guest room, he sat beside me on the couch. I don't deserve this, he said. This second chance, this life. You. Maybe not, but you're making yourself deserving. That's what matters. Do you think you'll ever trust me completely, or will there always be a part of you waiting for me to screw up again? I thought about that honestly. I don't know. Trust is fragile. You broke it once. Even repaired, it has cracks. But cracks don't mean broken. They just mean it's been tested and survived. That's very wise. I'm 70 years old. I better be wise by now. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the lights on the Christmas tree blink. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and quiet and clean. I never said thank you, Ryan said suddenly, for leaving, for showing me what I'd lost, for forcing me to grow up. Thank you for loving yourself enough to walk away. It saved us both. You're welcome. Looking back now, from the distance of 2 years and countless revelations, I can see what I couldn't see then. That walking out of that restaurant wasn't the end of my family. It was the beginning of a real one. That losing everything wasn't failure. It was freedom. That starting over at 68 wasn't too late. It was exactly on time. I learned that love without boundaries is abuse. That family without respect is prison. That sacrifice without reciprocity is self-destruction. I learned that you can forgive someone and still protect yourself. That you can love someone from a distance. That you can choose yourself without being selfish. Most importantly, I learned that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. Never too late to say no. Never too late to start over. Never too late to choose yourself. I'm 70 years old. I own a bookstore. I have friends who actually value me. I have a son who's learning to be better. I have a granddaughter who chose me. I have a life that's mine, built by my hands, funded by my courage, sustained by my boundaries. And I have peace, real peace. The kind that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, I'll survive. Because I've already survived the worst thing, losing myself. And I found myself again. That restaurant table where I sat invisible and ignored feels like another lifetime now. That woman who paid everyone's bills and accepted crumbs of affection feels like a stranger. I barely recognize her. But I'm grateful to her. Because she finally got tired enough, hurt enough, angry enough to walk away. And in walking away, she walked toward this life. This beautiful, messy, complicated, free life. If you're reading this, if you're sitting at your own table feeling invisible, let me tell you something. You can leave. You can choose yourself. You can start over. It's terrifying and painful and the hardest thing you'll ever do. But it's also possible. And you deserve it. You deserve respect. You deserve love that doesn't cost you everything. You deserve a life that's yours. So walk away if you need to. Run if you have to. Build something new from the ashes of what you left behind. I did. And I've never looked back. Well, maybe occasionally, but only to remind myself how far I've come, how much I've grown, how different life looks when you finally choose yourself. And if I can do it at 68, you can do it too. Whatever your age, whatever your circumstances, you can choose yourself. You deserve to choose yourself. Trust me. I know.